Alien girl returned the human's scuffed field notes, but what she added between pages softened him. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character, Ethan Miller. The morning light on Lyran, for never rose. It shimmered, a pale lavender haze drifting through the mineral fog like the planet was still deciding whether to wake up. Ethan trudged across the ridge with his pack rattling against his shoulder, the dry static of ion dust tickling the edges of his helmet. His breath fogged the visor in slow, steady pulses. Another day of field measurements. Another set of scuffed notes in the little book he kept tucked against his chest like a stubborn habit he refused to break. The wind shifted, sharp enough to sting through 2 layers of gear, and a gust slapped the notebook clean out of his pocket. It tumbled end over end down the slope, pages flapping like a wounded bird. Great, he muttered, sliding down loose gravel after it. By the time he reached the bottom, the field notes had stopped at a pair of unfamiliar feet. Bare, faintly luminous, toes sinking into the fine dust as if it welcomed her. Surveyor stood there, the alien girl with skin the color of cool blue metal and eyes that caught every glint of light. She held the battered notebook delicately, like she was afraid her touch might finish what time and weather had already begun. He didn't say anything at first. Neither did she. The only sound was the faint hum in the air, Lyran 4's magnetic fields shifting like slow tides. She extended the notebook. Ethan reached for it, embarrassed by how worn it looked up close. Corners crushed, edges frayed, a scorch mark from when a sensor overheated last month. It was a mess. He managed a stiff nod. Thanks. Her silver-blue gaze flicked across his faceplate, then the ridge behind him, then the book again, as if trying to understand why a human would cling to something so damaged. Ethan didn't offer an explanation. He wasn't sure he could. Those notes were pieces of him, half-thoughts, measurements, sketches he made when the loneliness got too heavy. Nothing worth showing. Everything worth keeping. Surveyor tilted her head, a gesture soft enough to be mistaken for curiosity. Then, without a word, she placed the book gently into his hands. Her fingers brushed the back cover. Not a touch, just a passing warmth. Before she stepped away, the dust swirling around her ankles like low clouds parting. Ethan cleared his throat, trying to shake off the strange flutter that moment left behind. He turned the notebook over once, twice, checking if anything had fallen out. It wasn't until he climbed back up the ridge that he noticed something he hadn't seen before. A thin line of pale metallic dust clinging to the seam between 2 pages. Something she must have left behind. Something he didn't dare open. Not yet. The wind settled. His heartbeat didn't. For reasons he couldn't name, Ethan realized the day suddenly felt different, as if Lyran 4's lavender horizon had shifted just a little closer, just enough to touch him back. By the time Ethan reached the survey outpost, the faint metallic dust on the notebook's spine had smeared into a soft shimmer across his glove, catching the pale lavender daylight like a quiet secret. He set his gear down inside the small shelter, its metal frame humming with the usual low vibration as the atmosphere regulators adjusted to the morning chill. He kept the notebook in his hand longer than necessary, turning it once more as if it might reveal its meaning without being opened. It did not. His coffee tasted flat. His instruments chirped the same readings as yesterday. Yet everything felt subtly shifted, like the air held one extra breath waiting to be noticed. When he finally opened the notebook, only a thin slip of something slid out and drifted toward the metal floor. Ethan caught it with both hands. It was a pressed leaf, translucent and faintly glowing, its veins shimmering like tiny threads of silver. There were symbols etched into it, not carved but grown, as if the plant itself had shaped the marks. They resembled the lines Surveyor had traced in the dust days before, patterns Ethan had assumed were decorative or cultural. But here, they felt intentional, personal. He tried scanning the leaf, but the holoscreen blinked back in error. Not recognized. Cannot decode. Ethan sighed, placing the leaf carefully between the pages again, afraid it might crumble even though it felt strangely warm and sturdy. He was still staring at it when the outer alarm chimed a soft, melodic tone, signaling movement on the ridge. He stepped outside. The wind had settled into a gentle push, enough to sway the dust in slow curls around the rocks. Surveyor stood near the edge of the plateau, her silhouette framed by the lavender glow. She was not facing him, not beckoning, just waiting, or maybe simply existing in the same place he happened to be. Ethan approached slowly, boots crunching against the mineral grit. She turned her head just slightly, enough to acknowledge him. Her eyes reflected the sky like polished water. "The leaf," he managed, unsure what else to say. She blinked once, a quiet affirmation. He held the notebook a little closer to his chest, unsure if she could read the gratitude in his posture through his helmet. "Why at it?" he asked. His voice came out softer than he intended. She lifted her hand, palm open. A breeze drifted past, carrying a faint shimmer around her fingers. "Where I am from," she said, her words gentle and measured. "We give light to pages that feel heavy." Ethan swallowed, feeling the meaning settle deeper than the sentence itself. Heavy pages. She had seen the scuffs, the worn edges, the quiet weight inside the book. She had understood, somehow, without being told. The silence between them felt calm, not awkward. Natural, like the planet itself had paused to listen. "Thank you," he said, wishing the words could carry more warmth. Surveyor tilted her head again, the faintest gesture of acceptance. The wind shifted, brushing a few particles of silver dust across the ground. Ethan realized they were leaving a faint trail behind her, as if her presence altered the air just slightly. She stepped closer to the ridge, looking out at the horizon where the light broke into soft layers of violet and silver. Ethan followed her gaze. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The quiet felt full. Eventually she said, "Your notes, they hold pieces of what you see." He nodded. "Helps me make sense of things." "Then I wanted to give something back," she replied. Ethan glanced down at the notebook. Again, thumb brushing the worn cover. He had no idea how one simple gesture could shift something inside him so easily, but it had. The air felt steadier, his breath softer, and for the first time since landing on Lyran, he felt less alone. The next morning carried a softer kind of light, the kind that made the lavender haze look almost like a low drifting tide. Ethan stepped out of the outpost with his gear in hand, but his attention kept drifting back to the notebook tucked safely inside his jacket. It felt heavier today, not from weight, but from meaning. He tried focusing on his survey route, marking coordinates on his wrist display. Yet every few steps he found himself glancing toward the ridgeline where he had last seen Surveyor. The air felt unusually calm for Lyran. No sharp ion gusts, just a steady cool breeze carrying hints of metallic dust that shimmered when the light caught it. It reminded him of the leaf she had given him, still resting between the pages like a small, glowing secret. By midday, he reached a shallow basin lined with crystalline rocks that hummed when scanned. He crouched, noting the tones, the frequencies, the way the ground vibrated in gentle pulses. His readings appeared normal, but the hum seemed slightly lower than usual, almost as if the basin was responding to something unseen. He placed his palm on the surface, feeling the faint warmth travel through the glove. It matched the warmth of the leaf. A soft disturbance rolled across the dust behind him. Ethan looked up to see Surveyor approaching from the far side of the basin, her steps light, leaving only the faintest impressions that vanished seconds later. The wind lifted strands of her silver-blue hair, making them glow against the sky. She stopped a few feet from him, gaze drifting over the ground. "The basin is quieter today," she said, her voice steady but hushed, as if speaking too loudly might disrupt the rhythm of the place. Ethan nodded. "I noticed. Do you know why?" Surveyor lowered her hand, skimming her fingers just above the crystalline surface without touching it. The hum softened even more, lowering in pitch. "It listens," she murmured. "It feels your intent." Ethan gave a small, uncertain laugh. "My intent?" "Yes," she replied. "You approach gently. It responds to how you arrive." He let that settle between them. Lyran, kept surprising him, and so did she. After a moment, Surveyor's gaze shifted to his jacket, where the outline of the notebook pressed faintly against the fabric. "Did you read the leaf?" she asked. Ethan cleared his throat. "Not exactly. I looked at it. I just did not want to damage it. Something like a soft smile formed in her eyes, though her expression barely changed. It will not break. It was grown forgiving. He loosened the zipper just enough to slip the notebook free. The leaf glowed faintly even in the bright haze. Soraya stepped closer, her attention gentle, not demanding. The symbols, Ethan said quietly. They look familiar now. She nodded. They mean quiet strength. It is a way of saying the weight you carry does not have to stay heavy. Ethan looked down at the markings, tracing them with his eyes, feeling something inside him settle. Why give something like this to me, he asked. She took a slow breath, the kind that seemed to align with the rhythm of the humming ground. Because you see this world with care, she said. And your pages showed me someone who notices small things. Someone who does not turn away from them. Ethan felt his chest tighten, not in discomfort, but in a grounding way, like her words had reached a place he had not realized was waiting to be reached. The wind shifted again, wrapping around them in a soft metallic whisper. Soraya stepped back, her gaze lifting toward the horizon. There is a storm coming tonight, she said. Not a harmful one, just a bright one. The sky will turn to bands of silver. You should not watch it alone. Ethan blinked, taken off guard. Are you inviting yourself, or inviting me? She tilted her head, that same small gesture he had learned to read as sincerity. Inviting us, she said simply. And somehow, that felt like the most natural thing in the world. Evening settled slowly on Lyran. 4. The lavender sky deepening into soft bands of indigo as the first hints of the approaching storm began to shimmer along the horizon. Ethan finished securing the outpost panels, listening to the faint metallic snap each time a latch locked into place. The wind carried a cool hum, steadier than usual, as if the entire landscape was preparing for the display Soraya had mentioned. He kept glancing toward the ridge, half expecting her to appear without a sound the way she often did, but there was only the quiet sway of dust in the fading light. Inside, he powered down the main console and gathered a thermal blanket, not because he needed it, but because having something to hold grounded him when the world felt too large. He tucked the notebook into his jacket again. The leaf inside still glowed faintly, as if responding to the coming storm. A soft vibration in the air made him step outside. The sky above had begun to ripple with silver strands, curling like slow, drifting waves. He had seen storms on Earth, fierce and loud, but nothing like this. This one felt gentle, almost ceremonial. He heard footsteps behind him, so light that they barely disturbed the dust. Soraya stood at the edge of the outpost platform, her gaze lifted to the sky. The silver tones of the storm reflected across her skin, making her appear almost luminous. You came, she said. Ethan nodded. You invited us. She looked at him briefly, and for a moment he wondered if she could sense the quiet shift inside him, the way his thoughts had softened since she returned his notebook. The storm brightened, bands of silver stretching across the sky in long arcs. They pulsed gently, like a slow heartbeat. Soraya stepped a little closer, her expression calm, contemplative. This is called a skyfold, she said. It is formed when the upper atmosphere cools just enough for the magnetic light to settle. Ethan watched the arcs ripple, each pulse bending the light into new shapes. It is beautiful, he said. It is safe to watch. She nodded. It is meant to be witnessed. My people believe it carries old memories. The world remembering itself. Ethan breathed in, letting the cool air fill his lungs. For a long moment, they stood in comfortable silence, the kind that did not need to be explained. The sky brightened again, casting silver reflections across the rocks. Soraya glanced at him, noticing the notebook tucked against his chest. Does the storm lighten your pages? She asked softly. Ethan considered the question. Maybe, he answered. Or maybe your leaf already did. She looked at him as if weighing the sincerity of that response. Then she lifted her hand and traced a gentle arc through the air, following the curve of the storm. Where I come from, she said, we mark storms like this by sharing something true. A small truth, given freely. Ethan hesitated, feeling the weight of his own quiet truths, the ones he usually kept pressed between pages. I guess my truth is, he began, searching for the words. I came here because Earth felt too loud, too crowded. Out here, things make sense. Soraya absorbed his words with the same attention she gave the shifting sky. Then my truth, she said after a moment. is that I came here because my world is too quiet, too still. I wanted to hear something different. They both looked upward as another wave of silver light rolled across the sky, softer than the last, but somehow deeper. Ethan felt the moment settle inside him, unhurried and real. We met in the middle then, he said quietly. Soraya's gaze softened, the closest she had come to a smile. Yes, she replied. In the middle is where new things begin. The storm above them shimmered once more, as if agreeing. The silver arcs from the skyfold had faded by morning, leaving the landscape washed in a gentle gray glow that felt quieter than usual, almost thoughtful. Ethan stepped outside the outpost with a steaming cup of coffee, letting the warmth sink into his hands as he scanned the horizon. The air held a soft stillness, like the world was catching its breath after the storm. He wondered if Soraya also paused somewhere on the ridgeline, listening to the way the air had softened. His instruments blinked awake one by one, each emitting its familiar startup hum. He set them into place, adjusting angles and calibrations with practiced motions, but his thoughts drifted back to the night before, to the quiet truths exchanged beneath the silver sky. He replayed her voice in his mind, steady and calm, telling him she had come here to hear something different. It stayed with him like warmth that refused to fade. A faint resonance trembled across the ground. Ethan looked up, expecting to see Soraya approaching, but instead he spotted a cluster of crystalline structures at the edge of the basin, glowing more brightly than usual. Curiosity nudged him forward. When he reached them, he crouched and placed his hand near the base. The hum rose in pitch, forming a soft melodic tone that almost sounded like a distant chime. They respond more when someone is near, a voice said behind him. Ethan turned to see Soraya stepping lightly across the dust, her silver-blue skin catching the morning light. She stopped beside him, observing the crystals with a thoughtful expression. They grew quickly after the storm, she added. Ethan nodded. I did not expect them to react like this. They echo what the sky leaves behind, she explained. The storm shapes their memory. Ethan studied the crystals again, noticing how their reflections bent into soft curves. Do they always react to people? Not to all people, she answered. Only to presence that feels open. He felt a quiet shift inside him at that, unsure whether she meant the words simply or deliberately. Soraya knelt beside one of the structures and lightly touched the air just above its surface. The crystal brightened, releasing a faint harmonic tone. Ethan could feel the sound vibrating in his chest, subtle but steady. Your world is incredible, he said softly. Your world has many wonders too, she replied. I have not seen them, but I have heard their stories. Ethan smiled faintly. Most places back home are loud, busy, filled with noise that does not mean much. Soraya tilted her head. And yet you carry pages filled with meaning. He felt heat rise to his cheeks, though the air was cool. They help me hold on to things, he admitted. Moments, thoughts, the pieces that make sense. Soraya looked at him with calm understanding. Then they are part of your voice. Ethan blinked, taken aback by the simplicity and accuracy of the comment. She continued, when you write, you speak to yourself. When you read again, you listen. The crystal beside them pulsed once, sending a ripple of light across its surface. Ethan inhaled slowly, letting the clarity of her words settle. What about you, he asked. Do you keep anything like this? Something that holds meaning for you? Soraya turned her gaze to the horizon, her expression thoughtful. My people keep memory in light, she said. In the way it bends, in the way it rests. What I carry is not written, but felt. Ethan nodded. That sounds peaceful. Sometimes, she said. But sometimes it becomes too heavy, when there is no new light to change it. He understood then why she had come. To Lyran for. Why she had given him the leaf. Why she watched storms and listened to hums in the ground. Maybe, Ethan said gently, this place can give you new light. Soraya looked at him, and for a moment, the quiet between them deepened in a way that felt grounding and warm. Maybe, she echoed. The crystal hummed again, brighter than before, as if agreeing with both of them. The afternoon light on Lyran, settled into a cool gradient, soft grays folding into pale violet, as if the sky itself was slowing its breath. Ethan finished logging the morning's readings and stepped away from the console, letting the quiet seep into him. The crystalline basin still hummed faintly behind the ridge, the tones rising and falling with the gentle sway of the wind. He found himself walking toward it without really deciding to, drawn by something calm and unspoken. Surveyor was already there. She stood near the tallest crystal, her hand hovering just above its glowing surface, her expression focused but peaceful. The air around her shimmered, not from heat, but from the way the morning storm had left a delicate charge in the atmosphere. When she noticed Ethan approaching, she let the crystal's resonance fade and turned slightly toward him. "Your steps are lighter today," she said softly. Ethan gave a small, surprised laugh. "You can hear that." "I can feel it," she replied. "The ground carries intention." Ethan shifted his weight, suddenly aware of what he was feeling. The lightness, the sense of clarity. It had been a long time since he felt steadiness like this. "I guess it has been a good morning," he said. Soraya observed him for a moment, her silver blue eyes reflecting the muted light. "Something inside you is less burdened." He tapped the notebook tucked under his arm. "Maybe your leaf helped with that." She stepped closer, her movements calm and fluid, her attention drifting to the edge of the notebook. "Your pages hold memory. But memory should breathe." Ethan looked down at the worn cover, the scuffed edges, the bent corners. "What do you mean?" "When something is kept too tightly," she said, "it becomes heavy. When it is shared, even a little, it changes shape." She paused, searching his face with quiet sincerity. "You carry many thoughts alone, Ethan Miller." The use of his full name felt grounding, almost gentle. "I always figured it was easier that way," he admitted. "Less to explain." "Then you explain without words," Soraya replied. "Your notes speak for you." Ethan looked out across the basin, watching light ripple across the crystals. "Do you read them? Is that how you knew?" She shook her head. "They are your voice, not mine to hear. But I can see how you hold them. And that tells enough." A breeze drifted across the ground, carrying a faint metallic scent. The crystals responded with a soft pulse, like a quiet acknowledgement. Soraya stepped to one of the smaller formations and gently traced the air above it. A subtle ring of light rippled outward, expanding until it reached Ethan's boots. He felt the vibration through the soles, warm and steady. "This place changes with presence," she said. "It reflects what is carried in the heart." Ethan exhaled slowly. "So what does it reflect now?" Soraya watched the light ripple again, slower this time, more even. "Calm," she said, "and something opening." He felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. Not as pressure, but as recognition. Something inside him was opening, gently, quietly, in ways he had not allowed for a long time. The sky above shifted slightly, casting a new beam of pale silver across the ridge. Soraya followed its path with her gaze. "There is a tradition," she said softly. "When someone begins to open, we offer a marker of that moment." Ethan looked at her, curious. "What kind of marker?" She reached out slowly, placing a faintly glowing stone in his hand. It was warm, lighter than it appeared, and its surface shimmered like soft frost. "This is not a gift," she explained. "It is a reminder. A way to say something inside you is changing shape." Ethan turned the stone over in his palm, feeling the subtle hum radiating from its core. "And what do I do with it?" Soraya tilted her head gently. "You carry it until you understand why it was given." Ethan held the stone against his chest, the hum aligning with his heartbeat. For the first time since arriving on Lyran 4, he felt like he was not just observing the world, but belonging in it. The crystals pulsed once more, softer, brighter, as if agreeing with whatever had just begun. The storm marker stone warmed gently against Ethan's palm as he walked back toward the outpost, its faint hum aligning with each step like a quiet rhythm only he could hear. The air had shifted again, still calm, but filled with an undercurrent of static, the kind that signaled a change in weather or something deeper moving beneath the surface. Soraya walked beside him, her steps light enough that they barely stirred the dust. The crystalline basin behind them glowed with lingering traces of silver, as if storing fragments of the skyfold's light. When they reached the outpost platform, Ethan paused, unsure why his heartbeat felt unusually quick. Soraya noticed. She tilted her head, her silver blue eyes calm and observant. "Your energy changed," she said softly. Ethan cleared his throat and looked out toward the horizon, where distant clouds gathered in long, horizontal bands. "I guess I am still thinking about what you said. About things opening." Soraya stepped closer, not intruding, just closing the space enough that he could sense her presence more fully. Opening does not need to be sudden, she said. It can be as quiet as a new page. Ethan glanced toward the notebook on the small outdoor table, the leaf inside still glowing faintly through the worn cover. Speaking of pages, he said, there is something I should show you. He picked up the notebook and opened to a section near the back. These pages were newer, less worn, filled with sketches of landscapes, notes about atmospheric readings, and small reflections he never intended anyone else to see. He hesitated before turning the book toward her. These are the parts one usually keep to myself, he admitted. Not because they are private, but because they feel unfinished. Surveyor studied the page with quiet reverence, as if honoring the vulnerability rather than the words themselves. Unfinished things carry truth, she said. They show movement. Ethan felt a slow breath leave him, tension easing from his shoulders. Something about her presence allowed honesty to settle without fear. There is one page that felt heavy for a long time, he said. He flipped to a spot near the beginning where the edges were more worn, the ink smudged from older storms. It was the first day I arrived here. I wrote that the silence felt too large, too empty. Surveyor touched the air above the page without making contact, her expression softening. And does it still feel empty? No, Ethan said. Not anymore. A breeze drifted across the platform, lifting a faint trail of silver dust around them. The hum from the marker stone in his hand pulsed once, as if responding to the moment. Surveyor looked at him, and for the first time her expression held a subtle shift, something warm and unguarded. Ethan, she said gently, there is something I must tell you as well. He turned toward her fully, sensing the importance in her tone. What is it? She hesitated, choosing her words with the same care she used when touching the crystals. My people do not usually share our markers with outsiders. The one I gave you is meant for connection. It means I see something in you that reflects truth. Ethan felt the warmth of the stone deepen, spreading softly through his chest. Why me? He asked quietly. Surveyor's gaze held steady. Because you listen. Because your voice, even when silent, carries care. Because your presence brings calm to a world that can be overwhelming. Ethan swallowed, unsure how to respond to something so sincere. The sky above shifted, casting a new ribbon of silver light across her features. Surveyor stepped closer, her voice a gentle thread in the quiet. And there is one more truth, she said. It is the real reason I returned your notes that day. Ethan's breath caught slightly. What reason? Surveyor looked at him with a softness that felt like dawn breaking. I wanted to understand you, and the pages you carried showed me someone worth understanding. The hum of the stone echoed the moment, steady and grounding, as the quiet around them deepened into something unmistakably shared. The marker stone's warm pulse lingered in Ethan's grip long after Surya's words settled into the quiet air between them. A soft silver glow drifted across the outpost platform as the afternoon light shifted, casting long, gentle reflections across the dust. For a moment neither of them spoke. The silence felt intentional, like the world itself was giving space for the truth that had just been shared. Ethan finally exhaled, steady and grounded. I did not know I showed anything worth understanding, he said quietly. Surveyor's gaze softened. You show it by how you move through the world. By how you pay attention. That is rare. Ethan looked down at the stone again, feeling its hum align with his heartbeat, and something inside him opened further, a slow and natural unfolding. There is something I should tell you too, he said, choosing each word with care. Before I came here, I felt like I had lost my place. On Earth, everything moved so fast that I could not hear myself think. Out here, the quiet was the first thing that made sense again. Surveyor listened with the same attentiveness the crystals showed her. Then perhaps, she said softly, this world brought you back to yourself. Ethan gave a small nod. Maybe it did. But meeting you, that changed something more. A faint breeze drifted over the platform, stirring silver dust into a gentle spiral around their feet. Surveyor stepped closer, her presence calm and steady. What did it change? She asked. Ethan looked toward the horizon, where the remnants of the skyfold shimmered faintly, like memory etched into the sky. I started noticing things again, he said. Small things. Light on the basin. The tone of the crystals. The shape of meaning in the quiet. I think you helped with that. For a brief moment, Surveyor lowered her gaze, as if absorbing the weight of his words. When she looked back at him, Her expression held something bright and unspoken. Then we changed shape together, she said. The phrase felt like a gentle echo of everything they had shared. The air shifted, a low hum rising from the ridge, signaling another atmospheric shift. It was not a storm, just the world breathing differently. Surveyor glanced toward the horizon. There is a place I want to show you, she said. A place where light gathers after a skyfold. It is not far, but it is best seen at dusk. Ethan felt a quiet anticipation stir inside him. What is it? A hollow in the stone, she explained. My people call it a listening fold. It keeps the memory of a storm, but it also reflects the presence of whoever stands within it. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Reflects how? Surveyor's eyes held a secret warmth. You will see. They walked together across the ridge as the sky deepened into a soft violet blue. The ground beneath them thrummed gently, guiding their steps toward a narrow opening between two rock formations. As they reached the entrance, a faint silver glow spilled outward, like light waiting to be discovered. Surveyor paused, placing her hand near the stone surface. The glow brightened, curling around her fingers in soft arcs. This place answers truth, she said. Not words. Presence. Ethan stepped inside the hollow, the marker stone still warm in his palm. The air within felt different, alive with gentle resonance. When Surveyor joined him, the light shifted again, bending in soft waves that surrounded them both. Ethan watched the glow ripple, weaving patterns he could not name, but somehow understood. Surveyor stood beside him, her expression calm, almost tender. Do you feel it? She asked. Ethan nodded slowly. Yes. It feels like something recognizing us. It is, she said softly. This place reflects connection. Ethan's breath caught, not from surprise but from the quiet rightness of the moment. The light curved around them both, brighter now, as if acknowledging what neither of them had needed to say aloud. For the first time since arriving on Lyran, Ethan felt entirely seen, and entirely unafraid of it. The hollow of stone held its quiet glow as the last traces of daylight slipped behind the ridge, leaving only the soft silver light that curled around Ethan and Surya like threads suspended in the air. The resonance within the listening fold deepened, not louder, but fuller, as if the space itself recognized the shape of the moment. Ethan stepped closer to the curved wall, watching the light ripple in response to his movement. It shifted in gentle arcs, echoing the hum of the marker stone still warm in his palm. It is reflecting you, Surveyor said, her voice a calm whisper in the stillness. It shows the presence you bring. Ethan turned slightly toward her. What about you? What does it show when you are here alone? Surveyor hesitated, her gaze drifting across the glowing surface. It shows memory, she said softly. Old storms, old choices. But when I stand here with you, it feels different. Less like remembering, more like becoming. Ethan felt the meaning settle over him, gentle and grounding. He walked toward the center of the hollow, and the light followed, softening around his silhouette. When Surveyor joined him, the glow lifted, merging into a single pale shimmer that wrapped the space in calm brightness. What does that mean? He asked quietly. Surveyor studied the glow as if reading a language only she understood. It means the fold recognizes alignment, she said. Two presences that move. In harmony. Ethan's breath slowed. The light reflected across her silver blue skin, giving her an almost celestial presence in the center of the hollow. He felt the hum of the stone resonate gently through his chest. Surveyor, he said, the word more like a thought spoken aloud. Why did you bring me here now? She looked up at him, her eyes steady and luminous. Because this place shows truth without requiring words. And I wanted you to see what your presence creates. Ethan swallowed, feeling a quiet emotion rise within him, warm and steady. I do not always understand what I bring, he admitted. I just try to move gently through the world. And the world answers, she said. Even mine. The light within the fold shifted again, brightening into a soft downward arc, like a bow acknowledging something sacred. Surveyor took a slow step closer. There is one more tradition, she said. Ethan lowered his gaze to the stone in his hand. Another marker? No, she answered. A recognition. She extended her hand, palm open. After a moment of stillness, Ethan placed the marker stone into her waiting grasp. The instant it touched her skin, the light around them brightened, rising in a spiral that filled the hollow with gentle silver warmth. Soraya's voice softened. When someone carries one of our stones and then returns it with awareness, it marks the moment the connection is understood by both. Ethan listened to the resonance deepening, wrapping the two of them in a sound so soft it felt more like breath than vibration. "And what happens now?" he asked. Soraya stepped nearer, the space between them narrowing until the light curved around their combined presence as one continuous glow. "Now," she said, "the fold remembers us. Together." The stone in her hand pulsed once, a slow, warm heartbeat of light, then dimmed to a gentle steadiness. Ethan felt something settle deep inside, not an ending, but a beginning shaped quietly in silver. Soraya looked at him with a calm expression touched by warmth. "The pages you carry will feel lighter now," she said. Ethan nodded, feeling the truth in her words. The hollow softened its glow, as if releasing them gently. Outside, the first stars emerged across the violet sky. Ethan and Soraya stepped out of the listening fold side by side, the quiet of Lyran stretching before them. And for the first time since he had arrived on the distant world, the silence did not feel empty at all.